Hello and welcome to PPC Live The Podcast. I'm your host, Anu, the founder of PPC Live. And if you're used to hearing advice from PPC experts about how to ensure we are keeping up with the ever-changing landscape, don't worry, you are still in the right place. Every week, I'm going to be speaking to a different PPC expert about their biggest F-up and how they turned it around, how quickly they caught the error, who was supportive, who was not, what were the client's reactions. We get all the juicy details, no PR kind of story put together here. And today I have the delight of having Menachem Ani, who is going to be telling us about a couple of mistakes that he's made about, sales, the wrong sales being live, CPA figures going wrong, and just lessons from that kind of story. And also lessons, especially for managers, on how to deal with their team so that they are not too afraid to make mistakes. So yeah, let's go speak to Menachem. Hello, Menachem. Welcome to PPC Live, the podcast.
Great to be here.
I'm so delighted that we finally got this date in the calendar. We did one before months ago. The tech was not having its way at all. So yeah, we've had some, I'm glad our calendars aligned, the stars aligned, and we're doing this, and we've done all the testing. Like Riverside was also even a little bit misbehaving a few minutes ago, but we've got it. We're here to do this. So let me introduce you to my lovely guest today. Menachem Ani is the founder of JXT Group, that I've been a long-standing Google partner, and that even got renewed again this year, right? Your Google
Yep.
Premier
Yeah.
partner, correct?
Yeah. 10 years running.
Amazing. Yeah. So he's also very much a digital marketing veteran, and you'll see how much when he shares his fun fact. Yeah. He's got over 20 years of experience in multi-channel advertising and growth strategy. And he's known for his expertise in Google Ads, automation, and paid media innovation. And he's also a respected speaker and contributor to industry events and publications. So that's including SMX, Brighton SEO, Search Engine Land, PPC Live. So
There
you'll
you
see
go.
his name. The latest article that seriously everyone should check out, because and Menachem and his team were one of the lucky few early adopters of ChatGPT ads. I've been able to set a campaign up. So especially for our UK folks who we're still waiting to get access to that. At least you can see a walkthrough of how to set a campaign up and what the settings are going to be. So after listening to Menachem, go check out that article of his that he wrote on PPC Live. So yeah, let's go into your fun fact. What's your fun fact, Menachem?
So my fun fact is I set up my first Google Ads campaign in 2003. So it's been a minute.
It's been a minute. It's been a long time ago. And just a little not too deep, because we know all these conversations about talking about mistakes, but what's different? How quickly was it for you to set up that campaign compared to especially how easy it is to set up a campaign now?
So I feel like everything is different, but everything is the same. I think easier then to not make mistakes. Today, there's so many little toggles that you can get wrong and
Yeah.
will completely mess up your goals. So back then it was just pick a keyword, put the ad copy, and let's go.
And said live. Said the thing live. And it was very much about you have the more money, you get the higher position, right?
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, Google had PageRank from the beginning, so it wasn't only about the cost per click. There was this de facto relevance, and I think that's really why Google took off the way it took off. But
Yeah.
it was so something very pure about it. Just pick a keyword, write your ad copy, put your bid, and done.
Yeah, absolutely. And those were the times I remember where the ads were on the right hand side of
Yeah.
the bar, wasn't it? And there was a CEO was at the top. Gosh, those were the days. Yeah, that's showing my age as well. Anyway, but again, thank you so much, Menachem, for joining us and being willing to share some of the mistakes. I mean, you know what? I'll admit that, look, as a Google Premier partner, you probably don't make too many mistakes, or you catch them really quickly. Menachem and I were chatting, and he was really digging deep for a mistake that would really, we could really sink our teeth into, that will get our listeners really excited. But there are a few that he's come up with, because the best of us make mistakes, and it's about learning from them, not panicking about them, knowing that that's where the best learnings come from. But
For
also
sure.
we share them so that you don't have to make the same mistakes, so that you can make
Exactly.
your own new brand of mistakes for
Exactly.
yourself.
I try to learn from other people's mistakes, but the reality is we're human. We're all going to make mistakes. I think like what we do with it, do we learn from it? Do we add it to our checklist? Make sure to look out for it in the future. That's really what sets us apart from the next person.
Absolutely. That sets us apart from the person who doesn't try and the person who's not, that, yeah, shouldn't be running accounts.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly. So I think someone has once said that if you've never made a mistake, actually, I argue that you've not tried hard enough. You've not
Yeah.
done the best for your client, actually, because you'll test something, you'll make a mistake, and you'll learn what's the right thing to do from moving on. So anyway, we're already doing the last 2 minutes of the episode. Like if we've come to the end of the chat already, but no,
Yeah.
this is the start of the conversation. So let's get into it, Menachem. What's the F up that you'd like to share with us today?
So doing this as long as I have my fair share of mistakes, but I think like, starting out, not being careful enough to set bids right. Like there are times where I accidentally, put $10 instead of a dollar as the bid or, put the budget at 500 instead of 50 and just kind of blows through.
Yeah.
Those kind of things always make me nervous because, we are responsible for the client's money. And so that's something I take very seriously. And yeah, it happens though.
Yeah. So you've had the incident of blowing through the budget in an hour that should actually have a budget that should have lasted
Exactly.
like a whole day. What and how did but is that one of the ones that you caught quickly, or did the client find out about it? What were they like?
Yeah, I mean, so, we caught it pretty quickly, but it was definitely a rough conversation with the client. Like you're starting off a new campaign, trying to get
Mm,
off on a good footing with a client, and then boom, now you kind of look like, do you even know what you're doing? And so it's a rough conversation, tough to navigate, but like, thankfully we caught it pretty quickly and reverted it, but it only affected about 24 hours of spend. But I've seen cases where stuff like that were done before a weekend, let's say, and then you don't even
yeah.
catch it till Monday, and it's like, oh,
Nothing spent, or the budget ended after an hour and was supposed to spend all through the weekend, and you're literally looking at it saying
yeah,
that, oh
yeah,
yes, nothing spent, and how you actually have to explain that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that I've also learned is never launch anything new before a weekend.
Yeah, we cannot say that enough. Like legit, if we give that as a lesson for every single episode, that will not be too much.
Yeah.
Never launch stuff on a Friday, people. Like
Thankfully,
seriously.
that one wasn't my screw up, but there was a time when I was working in house a bunch of years ago, and we had hired an agency.
Yeah.
They paused every single campaign, launched a complete new setup on a Friday morning, and then they walked out for the weekend.
My God. And they probably left early because that's what we all do. Is Friday,
Yeah.
you have a drink with lunch and then you don't necessarily come back to the desk after lunch.
Yeah, yeah, and so it's like my nature is to be overly cautious, but like,
Yeah.
like I try to learn from other people's mistakes, but I think as humans, we learn better from our own mistakes. And so like
Yes.
even my own, which, may not have been as bad, was still pretty bad and it kind of blew through the whole budget in a couple of hours, but like you learn very quickly. Now double check everything. Make sure you got it right. And a lot of people get annoyed when you change a budget in Google now. You got to do two-factor authentication.
Okay.
Every time one of those pop up, if you change your budget too much, I'm kind of like, okay, slow down. You got this.
Right, right. Okay, okay. So even Google has put like measures in place that if it feels like you're changing your budget too much,
Yeah. Yeah.
it
So
kind of
now if for example you change your bid from $1 to $10, it'll ask you twice, like, hey, that looks like a big increase. Do you want to save it? But then there are other ones where it's more for security in case an account gets hacked. If you change a budget, pretty drastically,
You know
it'll
what
ask you for
I
two
could have done
factor.
with that? Because I have made the mistake. I know, like, every once in a while, I share my stories, and I'm like, I have made the mistake of
Yeah.
where the bid was supposed to be 20 pence, 20p, or like 20 cents, and I
Yeah.
made it 20 pounds. Or like
Yeah.
20,
Well, we've
and it
all
was
done
just
that.
like, yeah, blue. And then this was a company where I'd already handed in like my notice. So like I was leaving, I was about to leave in the next few weeks. So my manager was like, oh, so you're leaving. So you're just doing whatever with the accounts. I was like,
Yeah.
no, it was an honest
Yeah.
mistake. I felt so bad, but yeah. 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 But there was another kind of mistake that you were gonna share, right?
And I've made so many mistakes.
Yeah,
I think
because
like
we're
another
only
one that
we're
I
only
think
10 minutes
about.
in. We can't leave. We can't say that that's the only one we're gonna share now.
Yeah, I think like there's certain ones that kind of stick with you. They're like another one, for example, is a client had launched a promotion and then the sale ended and we were supposed to update all the ad copy. And like we went through all the campaigns, cleaned it all out. But like, there's different toggles. It's like there's RSA ads. Back in the day, there was ETAs also, and we missed one.
Yes.
And like it still had, the client's like, why is this still there? I'm like, oops. Like
Oops.
again,
Yeah.
it's not a huge world-ending mistake, but like
No.
it makes us look like we don't know what we're doing.
Yes.
All these kind of things, like they kind of stack up in my brain to be a little more cautious and more
Yes.
thorough checklists. And but yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. The sales one is, I definitely think that it is an important one because they're all, especially you've always worked with like retail clients, e-commerce clients mostly, haven't you?
yeah. I mean, we do both. We do e-commerce and lead gen, but yeah, it's always like important to get that piece right because otherwise, then he has customers like, hey, it says you have a sale. Come to the website. There's no
Right.
sale. So
Yeah. So knock-on effect on conversion rate, you
everything.
with your customers of what's happening. Those things are very, very important. Like, what are the things that what are, maybe even especially like with like the CPCs, because that's very interesting, the fact that yeah, the Google thing now stops you from making too high a budget change or too high a bid change, or at least alerts you beforehand. But what are like some of the signs that you'd say that you missed beforehand that made you go, if I picked up on that? Well, you picked on them quite early, but if you picked if you hadn't done those things, those mistakes, what could have prevented the mistakes from happening? That's really just what I'm trying to get to.
So I think really just double checking your work, having very thorough checklists
Yeah.
of, like don't make certain changes, double check your changes, those kind of things really, it's attention to detail more than anything. But I think the other piece that I think about a lot is slow down. Like, go
Mhm.
slow to go fast. Like, if you move too fast, do too many things in one shot, it's much easier to make mistakes. So, like, if you feel like you're overwhelmed, your workload's too much, it's like if you try to do it faster, you're gonna make more
Yeah.
mistakes, then you have even more work to deal with.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
better to just kind of slow down, double check everything, and try not to make those mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah. And it looks like you've had some good clients. Like, talk about that. Like what makes for a client that even when they hear about mistakes, they don't leave. They don't get too angry and they don't leave.
Yeah.
What have you done to cultivate that kind of good relationship?
So I think that relationship, that's really the most important piece. Like, look,
Mm.
at the end of the day, we're responsible for clients' money. It's a big responsibility to take that to heart and make sure it performs in the way it needs to perform. Performance is key. But I think client relationships is probably more important than anything in
Mhm.
choosing which clients you work with,
Yeah.
picking good people. I like to say we do good work with good people. Like,
Yes.
I don't want to work with a client that has an amazing business, but they're not fun to work with, or,
Yeah.
they're not a nice person.
Yeah.
And so, really, just taking the time to build a relationship. And in today's world, it's like go to their office, shake their hand. It's a lot different than just being on video.
Yeah.
It's not as easy to do, but those kind of things really make a difference. When you have like a connection with someone and you make a mistake, like they're a lot more forgiving of it.
Yeah.
The hope is we don't make too many mistakes,
Yeah.
but it's inevitable
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. If it's inevitable, the thing that you really need to be big on is that good client relationship and building
for
that
sure.
trust so that even they themselves, they're fully aware of, like, this is not the usual. This is a mistake. I'm sure
Exactly.
they'll turn it
Exactly.
around.
And they do see that we go above and beyond to make sure there are no mistakes. So when it does happen, it's few and far between. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. We know them. We know them and we trust them.
and exactly. The trust is the biggest piece for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. And like, if someone has just made a mistake of, like, literally, yeah, that's let's go with the example of CPC has skyrocketed. They've put the wrong CPC in the daily budget has been spending an hour, and they're just watching it and they're scared to what the client is going to say. What's your advice to them?
I think For me, the biggest thing is get ahead of it. Don't try to act like it didn't happen. Don't try to cover it up. Just be real. Like, hey, we made a mistake. This happened. We caught it right away. We fixed it. Here's what we're doing to make sure it doesn't happen in the future. People like when you take responsibility and
Yeah.
accountability, and especially if you are working with good people that enjoy working with you, that they'll be a lot quicker to understand and move forward if they see that you're being responsible and accountable for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, honesty has always been like a common thread in all the conversation with people. Like, get ahead. Just, yeah, don't
Yeah,
try to be all like, you don't know what happened or try to blame something else. Take
right,
ownership, do the fix.
for sure.
Yeah. Okay, to be fair, you've given us so much insights for that one, and there's so much else to even talk about in our industry. So, yeah, let's go on to talking to like our next segment now, talking about mistakes that you've maybe seen or perceived when, let's say, you're auditing an account, you've won a new client, and what are some of like the common mistakes that keep reoccurring that you're really surprised by?
Think like a lot of times I see campaigns that are not built around the business goals. Like it just
Okay.
almost seems like they launch a strategy for the sake of launching a strategy, but it doesn't really make sense with the business goal. And a lot of times that could be the wrong bid strategy, maybe going after a target CPA when the client's interested in ROAS, or things like a lot of times you'll just have campaigns set up which are really just milking bottom funnel traffic, not really driving new customers.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much of that, or I see people using campaigns that are meant to work one way in a completely different way.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I see people launch a PMAX retargeting campaign.
Okay.
It's not possible to build a retargeting campaign with PMAX. It's just that's not how the campaign is built. It's just not. But people like they set it up in that way. They'll call it that. They'll think and it just doesn't work. And I'm like,
Lord.
so yeah.
That's so interesting. And so is there a but that's such like an interesting idea, like PMAX using it for retargeting. How come you can't use it for retargeting? Is there just a
So
lack of
the way
understanding what
audiences
PMAX is?
Yeah, the way audiences are built in PMAX is that you can only use an audience as a signal to the algorithm.
Yes.
So if let's say I say, here's all my website visitors and email subscribers, give it as an audience to PMAX, it's using that as a signal to find similar buyers, maybe to retarget some of them, maybe not all of them. It's really completely up to the algorithm what it does with it. And
Okay.
so I've seen so many times where people will set up a PMAX, they'll put all the first party audiences, website visitors, email subscribers, all that, and like they'll even title it like PMAX retargeting. I'm like, that's not
That's not
now.
what it does.
Yeah, and the flip side as well. Like a lot of times people will set up a PMAX to go after new customers, but PMAX by default will start at the bottom of the funnel and then
Yeah.
start moving up. So it's not really going to be a pure prospecting campaign unless you
No.
add in very, very heavy exclusions, which truth is
Sure.
some of them only came out in the last 6 weeks. Like
Yeah.
there is now an ability to block website visitors from PMAX. So
Okay.
I think really just understanding what each tool does and make sure
Yeah.
you're using it in the right way. I've seen so many agencies who don't seem to understand that, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's as you see so many agencies, not understanding that, but I'm actually so not surprised because it's just that whole, "Oh, yeah, PMAX, you just slap it together and set it." I
Yeah,
know, and it's like, guys, you need to understand what these tools are for and
yeah,
what the thing is trying to do and,
right,
whether that matches for your goals and what your business is doing. There's some people like as much as PMAX should be a tool that should be, well explored, it won't be necessary for every business type. It won't be necessary for every kind of goal that you've got. And like, yeah, there's just this whole like with AI and automation, new people going, yeah, 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 let's do Google ads for whatever you're doing and PMAX and you do all the AI stuff. And it's
right.
annoying.
And I
It's
think
annoying.
like the biggest thing is like let's say PMAX is a good example, but really any campaign type is it can be set up in a bunch of different ways to
Yeah.
achieve very different goals and perform very differently. And so you're right. You can't just slap it together. It's like people say it's a black box. You just set it and forget it. It's really not like that.
Not
You
anymore.
can set it 100 different ways and you can optimize it 100 different ways, but you have to know what to look for. It's very different than, a search campaign or something else.
Yeah. It's very now that you talk more about PMAX, I remember like again another shameless plug. Menachem is one of those that has written so much about Performance Max, especially for search engine land. Like legit, if you just search for Performance Max in on search engine land, most of those, maybe like 80-90% of our articles are from Menachem. I'm not even
About
kidding.
that, but
It's
yeah, I've definitely put a lot of information
yeah,
together, and to give Google credit, they've come out with so many new features and reports and insights. So like when it first launched, it was kind of a black box, but there's
yeah,
so much data you can get from it, and so many different toggles you can use to push it in a completely different direction. That like people should use that.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I know we're talking about mistakes, but we'll definitely get back on that. But like just a little tiny tangent. We're talking about Performance Max. I'm always like pulled into talking about AI Max as well. And
Yeah,
just especially about especially we talk about how like early PMAX was a bit of a mess and then they improved it.
yeah.
AI Max, do you feel it's a bit of a mess? Have you tested it?
We've definitely tested it. I think it's a little bit less of a mess as you might have considered PMAX in the beginning. And the reason why is because AI Max is, I'd say it's like a lot of similar components to PMAX that are related to search. So they've kind of taken this algorithmic targeting piece of PMAX and layered it on top of search as like an expansion. And
Sure.
so it's pretty good. I mean, my philosophy with it is only use it where you have revenue coming into Google Ads. So
Mm,
if you're running a low volume lead gen campaign and you're not using, let's say, broad match keywords, you probably don't want to use AI Max. But if you're running an e-commerce campaign where it sees the revenue and it knows the target ROAS, it's safer to use it because the system knows what's working and what's not. So
yeah.
you really, it's again, it's a tool in the toolbox, and you got to know when to use it and how to use it.
Okay, I'm going by the theme of the podcast. So let's say a big mistake would be to
Yeah.
try to use it even when you have no revenue coming in
Exactly,
through Google
exactly.
Ads.
Like if you're running a lead gen campaign is a good example because it's only measuring forms and phone calls.
Yeah,
And you set it to run after a specific keyword and then you turn on AI Max, it will go very far from the intent of your keyword and start bringing
yeah,
you random traffic that will convert into a form or a phone call, but that you can't do business with that person. So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And we've tested that. So I don't know if that's a mistake or not, but we've tested it. It didn't work in that way, but it works well for e-commerce or where you have offline revenue data coming in for lead gen.
Absolutely, absolutely. Love that insight. And in a way, we've already started talking about the whole AI, AI and mistakes working with AI, but specifically, and this is something that, we said we talk about Claude, bringing Claude into work within Google Ads. Do you think that's a mistake? Like, have you tested it? How have you gone with that?
Yeah, so like I mentioned before, I take the responsibility of managing our clients' budget very seriously. I'm not willing to connect Claude to my Google Ads account directly right now for that reason. What we do is like we use Claude a lot, both for creative, for ad copy, ideation, things of that nature, but also like we'll take data from Google Ads and put it in and do research and analysis on it. But I don't know, I'm afraid to connect it. We're
Yeah.
starting to think about testing like the Facebook MCP because that is like an authorized
Yeah.
connection, but I'm still just getting up to that.
Okay. Okay. So even like the Facebook one, you're not sure, but like as well, but the Claude one, not sure about that
Yeah.
that being in
I'm
it.
cautious to connect something directly to the ad account right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, but like, yeah, another shameless plug. Like, we've got Benjamin Wenner, who is going to be joining our Slack group, so the PPC Live Slack, and yeah, who's going to be showing us because he feels like it's the best way. Claude is the best one to do that, to be able to run your PPC accounts autonomously. But he also does warn about the fact that, with especially with all this access that we're giving it. I think one thing that was pointed out at a previous PPC Live event was the fact that, you're giving all this access to Google Ads, your Google Ads account, meaning you're allowing Google to be able to say that that mistake that happened, that's overspend of a budget, that's kind of thing, that optimization that was put in place,
Right.
not our fault. That bad result, not our fault, because you're giving access to an outside tool to
Right.
now manage your campaign. And so yeah, it could cause for a little bit of a dangerous stuff. Maybe Google might start thinking, depending on how advanced the AI, the co-working thing that you're doing is being brought into, it might see that as a little bit of a security issue, don't you think?
Yeah, I think it definitely can be a security issue. Like, what if Claude just raises your budget and spends, way more than you intended? What are the backstops they have to like prevent such things? I don't know. I think the other thing also is like, I love AI to help us be more efficient and all that, but I can't trust everything it outputs. Like,
No.
it hallucinates, it makes stuff up. And so, like, do I trust that to manage a client budget? Not really. And so, like anything that we get from AI, you got to double check it, make sure it's real. So, I think that's a mistake that, is very easy to make is just trust but not verify.
Yeah, yeah. When you just trust it and not you just leave it, just setting it and forgetting it. I mean, those kind of principles have never changed because even when we were, you'd add customizations and even coming to that example of like the sales ad, that went off, you just set things and if you don't double check what was supposed to go off, what the
Yeah.
automation was supposed to pick up. Yeah, yeah. You
Yeah.
just, you just never
That
know.
you're making me think of another one. Like we accident like how a lot of times people launch competitor campaigns. Is like
Yes,
we launched a competitor campaign by duplicating some of the ads from an existing, and we had dynamic insertion in there, and it was putting
yes.
the competitor name in the ad. And he's like, "Why?"
Oh my
Like, "Oh,
gosh.
shoot." But
Yeah.
thankfully, we caught it quickly and took it out.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That whole copying and pasting campaigns,
Yeah.
gotta be really careful because there'll be
Yeah.
some setting in the original one that you don't want copied, that kind of
Exactly,
stuff.
and so, like, now
Absolutely.
most of the time, we'll either launch a new campaign or do it in Google Ads Editor where we double check everything before publishing, and so, yeah, again, like, these are all mistakes we learned from.
Amazing. Well, you know what? I don't think I can't think of a better person to ask this question to as well in terms of like, you've got a great team. You've been with building your team for 10 years. You guys are a Google Premier partner. And you talk about you're being very, very open here, talking about mistakes. And I think sometimes you need to hear some other I've worked with some managers who are like, no, 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 we don't make mistakes. We can't, there's no room for that.
Try to
Why
minimize.
that I found that very weird, and I've seen like people like juniors being scared away from the whole industry because of that. They're like, "Wow, if I make a mistake, I might get fired," and you get so scared, and people leave. But like, tell us why is it important that we actually share about mistakes, and how should managers be with their staff, with their employees when it comes to speaking out about mistakes?
So, I think, like, look, I don't like when we make mistakes. I think, like, is it a preventable mistake? Like, is it a mistake that we could have avoided by following the process better? In that
Mm,
case, like, it's upsetting when we make a mistake, but if it's like, human error, like, something that's not usual or like we all make mistakes, we are human, but I think like as a manager the team's gonna have to follow the checklist, make sure double check everything, make sure not to move too fast, but at the same time, like when a mistake does happen, is I try to treat it with grace and be kind about it, because I know I've done the same thing. As long as it becomes a learning experience, that's the
yeah,
biggest thing for me, is like, what do we take away from it? If the answer is like, like, too bad, I made a mistake, or the person's not learning from it, that's not good. But if their response is like, I totally see what I did wrong there, I see why I did it, and I'm gonna try to do better in the future, then that's the best you can ask for.
absolutely, absolutely. It's the best thing I ask for, and managers you just need to be a bit just giving your team grace. I mean, obviously, it's not about seeing the same person making the same mistake over and
Exactly,
over again
exactly. That
and just
that's not okay.
sweeping it off of the rug. That's not okay.
That is
If
not
someone is
okay.
clearly not trying to learn from their mistake, yeah,
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 I'm not saying we should make mistakes all day, but if it does happen few and far between, we need to be kind about it for sure. And again, making sure we're learning from it.
absolutely, absolutely. Learning from the mistakes is the biggest thing. I think that's what we really need to be fully aware of as we go into this, as we're very much within in this AI
Yeah,
world. But realizing the mistakes will happen, as you said, because there's so many, as you said at the beginning, there's so many more toggles that you can get wrong. Before,
yeah,
when you started that first campaign, 2003, keywords, ad copy. Now there's so many different kind of toggles. There's so many different kind of like AI and
yeah,
targeting that you could get right or you get wrong. So yeah, keep an eye on them as we go into this brave new AI world. Use it,
yeah,
but also be aware of the mistakes that you could make.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and be honest about them. Menachem, that has been such a great conversation. Thank you so much for bringing those like several stories. Like we had 2 mistakes, we went up, you came back with a third mistake. I love it. We need that lovely kind of honesty in our industry right now, where on LinkedIn everybody's just sharing about I want this new client, 10 million in revenue. Everything is going well. You think on LinkedIn?
Yeah.
We need a different perspective.
Yeah, listen, thankfully we get a lot more right than we get wrong, but doing this as long as we've been doing it, there's definitely our fair share of mistakes, and I think everybody makes mistakes.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
it.
What I'm even excited for is that Ginny Marvin, we're gonna do it in a way of like the mistakes she made in a previous career that didn't stop her. But Ginny Marvin is gonna be on the podcast. Like I
Yeah,
am
she's
so like,
amazing.
yes. Like if Ginny can come on and be honest about making mistakes, anyone can. I can't
Yeah,
wait for the amount of people who start going, I want to be in the podcast. If Ginny's gonna talk about it, why shouldn't I?
exactly. There you go.
That'll be fun. Anyway, before we leave you, one final question. If your PPC career were a movie, what would the title be?
I think right now I would go with Heat. It's like me versus the AI.
Yeah, I think someone else, I think literally the previous episode, that someone also said heat.
Yeah,
I love it. Two people can be he. It can be, yeah, this industry raises the temperature
yeah.
on our day to day, on a daily basis, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's like we're just constantly trying to make sure it comes back to a lot of those toggles, a lot of those features. The ad platforms want to push us forward and do this, do more of that. And like I always have to ask myself, is that what's going to get the best results for my client? And so I feel like it's a constant game of push and pull.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like you got to think forward. You got to be AI forward. You have to be technology forward. Otherwise, you'll just get left behind.
Yes, 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 you will. You've got to, yeah, you've got to get into the kitchen. You've got to face the heat.
Yeah.
You've got to get in there, unless, might as well not be in this industry at all. Like loads of things are changing. And that's great. So Menachem, I know we've shared several actually platforms that you're on, but what's your favorite to share to people if people want to really like, follow what you're doing? What's your favorite platform
I'm
that you're
really most active on LinkedIn and Twitter,
on?
so
Okay.
feel free to connect with me there. Always happy to chat.
Amazing, amazing. We'll share all the links to that in the show notes. So yeah, people can definitely connect with you. But yeah, that's been a great conversation. And yeah,
Yes.
thanks again for that, Menachem.
Thank
And
you. Thank you for
my,
having me. Always
my
great
pleasure.
chatting.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that fantastic story, Manahem, and sharing just that very honest and transparent experience. Because yeah, being a founder of a company, it might be a little bit difficult to actually admit that you had mistakes. But as you said, as Menachem said, remember everyone makes mistakes. The best of us makes mistakes, and we've just got to be honest and open about it when they happen, so we can get ahead of the solution. So anyway, for all the information and the full transcript, not just the show notes, go to podcast.ppc.live to get all the full details and all the links that we shared. So yeah, in terms of PPC Live event updates, the sun is shining on me because I am in Portugal right now, but so will it be on July the 29th, sun shining for our PPC Live event, because we're going to have it during the daytime. We're going to have it from 1:30 p.m. We've got 4 fantastic speakers because it's our 4th birthday of PPC Live. So I'd love for you to join me there and join and celebrate, such an accomplishment of, you guys following this journey with me. And yeah, there's going to be food, drinks, partying. There's going to be an after party where there's going to be in a beer garden nearby. So yeah, make sure you don't miss it. So yeah, tickets are live for that. Go to ppc.live for that, or just search for PPC Live on Google. Google search that. If you see the Eventbrite option coming up, ad coming up for the PPC Live 21 ticket, yeah, that's the link to click through and go get your ticket. We're on early bird sale right now. That's going to end in we've got still some weeks to go for that one, but there are going to be 2 price bumps. We're going to have a final ticket sale, but also a lastminute.com price bump. So yeah, for those people who leave things till the week of, you might be in for a surprise, but you definitely don't want to miss it. Either way, it's going to be an amazing party. But before I leave you as well, I'm delighted to share that I am also taking on coaching clients, so coaching mindset, clients just to help with your PPC mindset, to help you with your confidence, to go for that promotion, go for that pay rise, go for that, job that you're not sure you're perfectly suited for. Get in touch with me. Go to themarketinganu.com for the full details of that. You'll be able to book 15 minutes free session with me so that we can discuss specifically what your needs are. All right. Well, thank you so much for that. And I hope you've enjoyed the show. And I look forward to bringing more PPC F-ups and triumphs next week. Thank you. Bye.